Okay, all right. Okay, guys, so this is actually okay. I think we'll get such things. Okay, so this is like the bare minimum information one needs to know to work on GlusterFS. So in this session, I am going to cover the basics of a file system at a very high level. We will not go into any particular implementation of a disk file system, but to understand a Gluster file system, one needs to know some mental model of the underlying disk file system. So this effort is to mainly cover that part. If there are any doubts, please stop me in the middle and ask the doubts right away, so that we can cover it while the information is given at the same time. Okay. So yeah, with that, let's start. So this is the scope. We'll just I am seeing people from different experience levels in this session. So it's going to be very basic, and some parts assume that you know a little bit of operating system, but that's it. Okay. So we will see what is a file system, what are the types of file system if you look at it from the point of view of GlusterFS, what are the data structure that one needs to know if you want to work with any file system on Linux, or even Sun Microsystems and all these Solaris, any POSIX compliant file system. And then what are the types of files we generally deal with, and what are the mechanisms that the kernel provides to manipulate these files. Okay. Okay, so this is like this, I copy pasted from Wikipedia. Okay, so like file system controls how data is stored and retrieved. Any file system generally gives you different types of files that get stored, and how you have to access this data. Are some types of files are so special that the operations on them mean different things altogether. So we will see about that also in this session. So if you look at the file systems from one system level up to multiple systems, where normal distributed system / cluster, then you have different types of file systems. So the most file systems that everybody probably knows are ext4, xfs, btrfs, or zfs. So these file systems actually are laid out on your physical disk or a logical disk that is present on your system. So these things generally work at a single machine level. Okay. So with these as building blocks, you have network file systems where the data gets stored and retrieved over the network also. So you can have all your data stored in one central location, and you can just have clients accessing them over the network. Okay, the most famous one network file system is the NFS, and this NFS protocol. NFS is like a protocol, and different people can implement their own servers to follow that protocol and expose their file system as a network file system. So kernel generally has this NFS server. So any Linux system, you can actually share part of your directory to another client using NFS. So GlusterFS also kind of works in a similar way, but not completely. So GlusterFS also provides these replication and distribution guarantees, even erasure coding features on top of your normal disk file systems, and exposes that whole namespace as one single mount point to any client. Okay. So we will probably discuss the usability aspect sometime in the future. But at the moment, this is like, just like a basic level of understanding is enough. This is where we are getting into the main part of the disk file system. So you guys may have heard about this one. In Linux, everything is stored as a file. All operations are like, open, read, write, close, something like that. So if you look at logically how you want to look at a file, of each file in a file system will have something called as an inode. Okay, it will be associated with your normal file name. So when you create a file or delete a file, when you create a file, it is the inode that gets created first. Okay, then once you start writing to the file, you will have some data blocks that get created. So these data blocks can be hanging off of just the inode, or you can have like, multiple references also. Like, if the size of the file is growing by a lot, you can have some blocks that are just storing where the other data blocks are. So this is like a logical understanding of how a file gets laid out on a disk. I mean, like on a file system, and different file systems implement these things differently, using their own on-disk data structures, like, B plus trace, LSM trace, or whatever. But a file in in Linux is, when you talk about a file, it is just this, like, inode, which will have an inode number. So I can probably show some example. So if you want to look at ls minus I, if you do, so these are all the inode numbers that the file system has given to these files. Okay. So like data blocks, I think different file systems provide utilities to look at what are the data blocks that are there on the file. But for now, let's not go into that part. So yeah, you have both, like, data block and inode block, like we discussed. So types of files. So most of the people would generally know these regular file type, which actually contain the data of your file, and directory, which is a special type of. All these other files are like, treated like special types of files, which has different meaning. Because the data blocks are also manipulated by the file, like a kernel. You don't you can't write arbitrary data into these files. So the file system provides particular system calls to manipulate data inside these things. Okay. So regular files are your normal files, which will have, data and metadata. We will look at a directory. So in a directory, you have an inode, just like any file. In the data blocks, like, this is again like dependent on your disk file system implementation, but general information is like, data blocks are completely laid down with your entries of the directory. Typically, they store the file name, type of the file, and the inode number associated with this file. So when you do cat of a file, etc., or like, do ls and then you do cat of a file, you basically figure out what is the inode number of this a.txt. If you do cat a.txt, it will look at what is the inode number for a.txt. Then it will open this file. Then when you do a cat, it will actually read off that file. So the name is like an association to an inode for us. You can have other types of associations too, which are like file descriptors. And nowadays, like for the past 10-12 years, there are these new types of handles also, where you can give an FD of file descriptor of a directory, and with respect to that directory, what is the path inside that directory. So we can discuss about that in the next few slides. So if you look at it, right, so a.txt has inode number 20, b.txt and c.txt both have same inode number. So when such a thing happens, we call them hard links. Okay, any file can have hard links, but directories won't be allowed to have hard links, because that can create loops in a file system. So it is disallowed. Okay. So this is like symbolic link is like, you know, a special type of file, again, where there are system calls to create and delete these files, but the data is again like written by the kernel itself based on the system call. Users can't write to these data blocks by normally opening the file and writing to it. Okay, so generally the data block, so the path in this symbolic link can be stored either in the inode or in a separate data block based on the size of this path. If the path is really big, then it will be written to data block. If it is small, then it will be written inside the inode itself, so that the access can be faster. Okay. So we'll just do okay, I think there is one more. After this, we'll do a little bit of a practical kind of a thing, just to understand what it is. So these are like special types of files: block file, character file, character device, block device, and FIFO and socket files. So these are not something that we use in Gluster a lot, but you know, somebody can create and store them. So block files are generally, I think, okay, block files represent your hard disks generally, and character files are for keyboards. Like that's one type of a character device. Socket file and FIFO files are for interprocess communication. So we will probably do a little bit of like, you know, we will execute some commands to see what these things translate to on. This is like an XFS file system. We'll just see how these concepts translate to real. Scratch.
It would be better if you can maximize your screen font.
Yeah. Is better?
Yes, yeah.
All right. So I think normal files everybody knows. I think we can just do A, and if you do A, so stat actually gets the information that is stored in the inode of this file A. So if you do ls minus ia, this is the inode number. Okay. And if you do a stat on this file, it will give you what is the file name. It has these are all called inode attributes. Okay. So IO block is something that you configure at the start of formatting a file system. So even if you write 1 byte to the file, it will at the minimum use 4K block to store even that 1 byte. But the size actually tells you how much of that block is actually being used. Okay. So these are the number of blocks this file is using. Okay. These are like, you know, access permissions. These are like, you know, this is like user, group, and other, who can read, who can write, that kind of information. This is like UID, GID. So like group, what this files group is and the user is. and this is what is that, system ACL. I forget this one. Aravinda, do you remember this one?
SC Linux rules.
SC Linux, yes. SC Linux. This is secure Linux context. This also is one way of giving the information about who can access and who can't. And these are like the access, modify, change time. Okay. So this birth time may or may not be available in all file systems, but access time generally gets changed whenever you open a file. Modify time is whenever you modify the data of the file. C time and birth. Okay, so in this file system there is a separation, but generally C time refers to the changes in the inode. Yeah. So this is a regular file. Okay. So this, if you do ln minus s ab, okay, you do ls minus l. So this is called as a symbolic link. Okay. So if you do cat b, it will still give you whatever is in a. Okay. But if you do now cat b, then it won't work because the file that it is referring to is gone. So that I think it also color codes. So this basically says in the dash, it actually tells you. Okay. So if you do a trace of ls minus l, okay, it is pretty big. There will be a call called read link. I'm just searching for it. Bear with me. Okay, so when you do read link, you got the actual file. So the read link is a system call to find what this B is referring to. Okay, we will see what the system calls are at the end also. But strace is a utility where you can trace any command to look at all the system calls that are getting executed when you execute a program. Okay, so if you look at strace tat b, okay, okay, so which one is this stat? Oh, it is, okay, yeah. So this is the stat call that actually is executed to get this information. Okay, that this is the type of the file, etc., etc. Yeah. What? Oh, yeah. The device files and all these separate files, right? So if you look at this, all these are like, if there is a C at the beginning, that's like a character file. Sorry, character device. Which is a keyboard is also like a character device where everything is like sequential. And block devices are like, these are my hard disk related devices. So these are you can do random access on this block device. So there are some things called as minor numbers and major numbers, which are used to figure out the driver in kernel which can handle this device, etc. But that is not in the scope of this video. Okay, the other one was oh yeah, named FIFO is fun. So we can do MK FIFO, let's say 1. Okay. So you can do something like echo A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and 1. This one will hang. Okay. So if you do stat 1, this you can see that size is there, nothing, blocks is nothing, the type of the file is, so basically there are no data blocks in this file. Okay, the other inode attributes will be there, like inode inode number of links, etc. will be there. But like then you would wonder, where is this data going then? Okay, so if you do cat1, then you will get this. So these are generally used for inter-process communication. You probably would know these normal pipes, right? LS grep something A if you do. So this is called like a pipe, okay, where this process and this like LS process and grep process can communicate, where output of LS gets redirected to input of grep. So named pipe is like a file on a file system where like you can use different processes. You use this FIFO to for communication between different processes. Like one process can do a write, another process can do a read. Okay, so this is another fun one. Okay, now we can probably talk about the links also. Yeah, so if we do so ls minus l, you can see that there is one link. Okay, but if we do ln a b, sorry, c, ls minus la, if we do now you can see that there are two files. Okay, two links. Okay, so we can see here that the inode number for these two are same, right? So hard links are sometimes useful. GlusterFS actually uses hard links in a very interesting way to reduce the access time for a file, which I think we will cover it in the sessions that are coming up. Any doubts so far? Is anybody there? Okay. Are there any doubts, guys?
No, Pranay.
Okay, okay, guys. Then we'll go to the next one. Okay, so this is where like most of the crux of what GlusterFS actually does to the file system comes up. So be it your normal network file system or a GlusterFS file system, you are basically showing the contents of the underlying disk file systems in a way to the machine which mounted this file system, right? So you kind of need to do all the operations that a kernel expects a file system to do on GlusterFS mounts. Okay, so generally we have like 3-4 types of file system calls. Actually I said 3 types here, but after writing everything down, I thought there is like another type also, but which is not exactly a file system call, but those are also important. And there are 3 types of handles to these like system calls. So we'll first probably look at the handles and then the types. So handles are like a way of getting to the inode from kernel's perspective. Okay, so all the operations actually happen on an inode. If it is the data operation, then it will go on to data blocks. If it is metadata operation, generally is in the inode. But some operations are complex in the sense they'll modify both data blocks and metadata blocks. Like if you do a write, it has to both write the data into data block, and it also has to modify the m time of the file, which would be stored in inode. So when you do the operation, both of these things get changed. Okay. But before that, so you can refer to a file using path, or you can refer to inode using file descriptor. And in the latest system call, I think this is from like 2008 or 2010, where you can refer to an inode using a directory fd, and then actually this is path, actually not name. Maybe I should just change it. Sorry, that's a mistake. So you can specify a path relative to an FD. Okay. So these things, I think I'll just show it using the system stress utility itself. So I think path everybody understands. Like, if you do etc fstab, right? You can see, like, you are accessing this file using this file system. File system path for this inode. But if you, okay, maybe not this one. Okay, maybe this one is better. This file, this command is better. So if you do stat, you can specify a path also. But you can access this one using something called as fstat also, which is like an FD based operation. Okay, so if you do cat fstat and oh wow, open. Oh, sorry, it is stress. Wondering what is happening. Okay, so in this, if you look at it, it is using the third type of handle actually. So this is called as a file descriptor. Okay, all your reads happen on this this pread or read. Okay, so it is using read to get the data. So it has done open for the file system. It gave it an FD, the process an FD for this file, and using that file descriptor, it did the read, and it got this some 766 bytes of data. Okay. To refer to this file, okay, now there in this strace you can see two variants already. So this is one variant which is like an FD, and the other variant is like, at FDCWD means this is like this third type of variant. Okay, where you are taking the current directory as the reference point, and then you are giving the file path. But because this file path is starting with a slash, it will be considered as an absolute path, and this is kind of meaningless. Maybe if we do this one may have, yeah, so this one is does not have a slash at the beginning, right? So this is like relative to the current directory. Okay, so you open this file in read-only mode and then read the contents of the file here. Okay, so and if I don't know if stat gets, I think it gets connected to stat only with the path. Sorry. Okay, so you can see that the stat command line actually got converted to statex call, which is like an advanced stat call, which was recently introduced to get more information on this file. But nevertheless, it also is using at fdcwt. But okay, see, this fstat is like on an fd, which is like doing the same stat call on an fd instead of referring it by file path. It is using, I think all stat calls probably are have changed with the at variants. Let me see if I have any. See, I think yesterday I did some. Yeah, so this is like a stat call. So you can specify a path also to get the same information. So these are like the 3 handles that you can use to get the information to like to do operations on this inode. Okay. Any doubts here? Okay.
No, not much.
Okay, cool, man. All right. So now I think it is mostly going to be like, the metadata operation, like the kind of system calls that we have and what they do mostly. Okay, so this is mostly like a little bit of a description of what each of these things do. Okay. We will probably how shall we go about them? We'll just, okay, so one thing before we go into them, all these system calls, right? Any Linux installation will have these man pages. So if you at any point want to know what something does, you can just do man 2. 2 is for the system call. Okay, you can do like stat, let's say. So it will give you all the system calls that are present. Okay. So fstat is the fd handle variant. Okay. Stat is generally the path variant. The lstat is something that is starting with L, right? Is a little bit interesting in the sense that if this path name, okay, I think probably can show. So if you do stat A and stat B, okay. Sorry. Follow symbolics. Okay. Okay. So if you look at this, if you do just stat A, the inode is this ending with 829. If you do stat B, the inode is different. That means this is for this symbolic link. Okay. But if you do stat minus L of B, then it actually dereferences this file and goes to the actual file. So it is ending with 829 again. So if you look at these man pages, the the system calls that are starting with L, they generally do not dereference the path name. Okay. So the lstat is like stat minus L. The stat actually does a dereferencing of this path. Okay, so if it is a symbolic link, then it will try to stat the actual file or a directory that it is pointing to. Okay, fstat is on whatever is the file. Okay, and you also have the third this variant where it is like fstat at, which is like on a directory and then path. Okay, I mean like the dirfd slash path name relative to this directory fd. Okay, so almost all of these things will have variants. Okay, so extended attributes are the most important attributes in GlusterFS. So as you know, most of these attributes that get stored in inodes, you can see them here. But let's say for whatever reason you want to store extra metadata on the file. Okay. You can use such extended attributes which are like, you know, key and a value. Okay, you can store arbitrary metadata that you feel is important to store on this file. So it is actually used in an interesting way in Gluster. So let me see if I can show one such thing. So this is the break. So let's say from the mount we do something like a touch A. Okay. Now if you do get a factor for this A, so these are all something that the GlusterFS brick process stored on the file. Okay. So this GFID is something similar to the inode number in Gluster. Okay. It will be unique across the cluster. And the metadata is like some C time and some other metadata gets stored in an extended attribute that is same on all the all the replicas and the complete cluster, something that is not just that file system specific, but you want to store, that gets stored here. And GFID2 path, I think if you give honestly text, maybe it is better. Yeah, so GFID2 path is like, you know, what is the parent directory of your file and what is the file name. So this is also stored. This is sometimes useful for figuring out what the file path is given a GFID. Okay. I was telling you guys that hard links are used in an interesting way on Gluster. So if you look at a stat of a file, it has two links. Okay, the other link will be in .glusterfs directory. The first two, which is like 05 and then A7 and then the full thing, like, you know, 05 A7 and so basically if you want to access the file just using the GFID, you can do that in GlusterFS. So this is like if for people who are who know about these databases, you may have some indexes to like, you know, refer to some rows, right? Different indexes. This is like a GFID index for all the complete file system. Using the GFID also you can get to the same file. Okay, so this is one more thing that I wanted to show you guys. Okay, so list exatter is to, like, when you do get a fatter, it acts. Okay, it does a list exatter actually to list all of these so this is what it does. So to get all the extended attributes on the file, then for each file it will do a get exatter again. Yeah, so it first does a list exatter, and then for each of the exatter that it got in this, you can do get exatters. Okay. So so basically you probably are also understanding how doing just an strace on any command line, you kind of know what it is trying to do. All right. I think for the experienced folks in the audience, this is all like, something that we always knew, but I'm talking about these things so that everybody would know. So access is used to find out if file has read access, write access, etc. Those kinds of things on a for user group or other something like that. Okay. So these are like metadata read operation based system calls. Okay. Metadata write operation, I think most of these system calls have equivalent CLIs which are almost same. Okay, so I think chown is something that probably you guys would have tried, right? So if I do, for example, that A, if I do, it has this UID and GID, which actually represents my actual user ID. So I can change it to root, and it will become root. So these are, so if you do chown, system call that is used by chown program is also chown actually. Oh, okay. So it is using that at variant of the handle. So, oh man, nowadays nobody is using path based. I think Amar, we have to change all the syscalls in POSIX to use at variants. I think nobody is using path variants anymore. All right. Okay, where is it? Okay. Chmod, I think it is to change these permissions. So you can do chmod 717a, and then if you do stat, it will change. So again, so I think you guys are getting the drift, right? It's for all of these commands. If you do strace and grep for the system calls, you will see how the underlying system call gets called. Okay, uttimes is to modify uh, the modification time or access time of the file. This is something that we use when we do self-healing or rebalancing of the files to set the access time and modification time correctly after the rebalance or after the heal. So set exatter, remove exatters are used to set these external attributes and remove the external attributes. Okay, so these are most of the metadata operations and they generally modify the inode part of the file, but external attributes sometimes, if they are big, they get stored in data blocks. So again, like those are like implementation dependent. So these data read operations, I think these things everybody probably knows. Read is like reading a file. Read link, I think I showed a bit before, where it actually tells you the file path. Read dir actually, you will never say read dir in an stress. I think it's always a get ends. So factor. Oh, sorry. So as you can see, it is the getDens system call which actually gives you the entries in a file. So the readdir that we generally use to get the directory entries, this is like a libc wrapper, I think. glibc wrapper, right, Amar? Arvind, one of you, few guys are there. Okay, I think they dropped off. No, it's okay. I think.
Yeah, Amal dropped off from the call.
Yeah. Yeah. I think these are like libc wrappers. Uh, okay. But the actual system call is getDense. So data write operations, this probably you guys know, like writing to the file, truncating the file, and fallocate is something that not many people may know. It is like, your malloc for the file actually. So if you think while writing the file, you don't want the disk to become full, etc., you before you start the write operation itself, you will do an fallocate, which will allocate the necessary data blocks for that file size. And you can write to the file with the confidence that you will always get the data blocks to write the data up to that size. Okay. There are variants also for fallocate for doing punch hole, etc., so that for VM files it gets used. Okay. So these are the directory operations. mkdir and rmdir, I think they are similar to what you see when you do execute the commands mkdir and rmdir. mknode symlink is ln minus s. When you do ln minus s, that is how you create soft link. Linking is for doing hard links. Truncate. Okay, this is not supposed to be here. Okay. So creating is for creating the file and giving an FD. Unlink is for deleting a file. mknode is generally used to create any type of file. So these device files and character files that we saw sometime in the middle, you can create them using mknode system call. Okay. And these are the handle based operations. So if you do open on a file, you will get the FD. Open data is similar for a directory. Oh, the statfs is important. This is not a handle operation. This is like file system operation. So this is like a system level that is at a file system level. I'll probably spend a bit of time on that one. Flush is actually something that is not a system call. It is something that we use in GlusterFS. But I just included it for completion from GlusterFS perspective. Close is something similar. So close translates to flush in GlusterFS. fsync and fsync directory are for syncing the data blocks of the file to the disk. Seek is to move to a particular offset in a file. LK is for synchronization on the file. Okay, so you can lock on a range, etc. So I'll spend a little bit of time on a couple of these system calls. We can probably start with statfs. So I think most of you guys may have executed something like df. Okay. So that is what happens, I think, to do. So as you can see, now you kind of probably know what df is doing. Df actually gets all the file systems that are there, and it will do a statfs on each file system, which will give you this information. Okay. So like if you look at statfs, it is the one that actually tells you how many free blocks are there, how many blocks are already taken, what is the block size on this file system for optimal transfer. I think this is what it uses when you do the file star, where it actually tries to write in the block size in block sizes as much as possible. These are like number of free blocks, available blocks, So this is like, the metadata of the file system itself. How many inodes are there in the file system? How many of them are free, etc. What is the maximum length of the file name? All these things would be there in this status call. Okay. So yeah, this fsync and fsyncdir is something that probably I'll cover in the upcoming session. But yeah, so these are like the basic information that one needs to know about a file system to build a file system on top of it, like clustered file system on top of it. There are other ways to do it also. You can build a file system out of block devices directly, but GlusterFS chooses to do it over a file system. So that's what we covered here. I think that's all I have for this week. Any doubt, guys? Anything that you want to ask? Okay, I'll stop the recording.